to Cultivating Keepsakes. I'm Eden and I'm so glad you're here. Today I'm making a witch's broom. The first thing I did was cut or tear strips of fabric, depending on the type of fabric it was. I did not have any certain measurements. I did not do them all the same. I just kind of went with it and made them as long as I thought they might need to be, or if, the width was a certain size and it was easier to cut it, that's what I did. I used a lot of thrift store fabrics like curtains, table covers, shirts, sweaters, a few from Dollar Tree, and a couple from Walmart. And then I took this spindle. I got a bunch of these off Facebook Marketplace. They're actually, I believe, old stair rails. And I just cut it down to the size I wanted. And then I took my Dixie Belle paint in the color Fluff and I dry brushed it on, which, if you don't know what that is, you just put very little paint on your brush, and I like to dab mine on a paper towel, and then you apply it. So you're using just a tiny amount of paint. I didn't put any on the bottom because you're not going to see that. And I'm sorry for the way I sound today. I'm not feeling well, but I wanted to get this video out for you guys. So once I was finished with that, I took my strips of fabric and I just kind of bunched them up in my hand. I didn't have any particular order or reason other than not wanting them to be like two of the same exact ones together. And you do want to make sure, because I flipped the spindle upside down and I have the fabric laying so that it's going towards the top of the broom handle, you want to make sure that your fabric is facing backwards to you so that when you flip it in the end, it will be facing the right way. And I just kept gathering more and more fabric, and then I started holding it against the spindle and continue to gather it, turning the spindle and just filling it up. And then once I went around the first layer, I actually went around and did a second layer because I wanted my broom to be really full. This is totally up to you. It depends on how full you want your broom. You can add as little or as much fabric as you want. And then once I had the amount of fabric that I thought I needed, I took a rubber band and I wrapped it around the spindle and the fabric. I wrapped mine around 3 times, but yours will depend on the size of your rubber band and fabric and spindle. You could also just wrap twine or string around that part. And then I just flipped it upside down and kind of fluffed it out a bit. And then I cut away all of the like super long excess pieces. And then I stood the broom up and I continued to cut until I got it to the size that I wanted my broom to be. And I just went around kind of playing with it, twisting some pieces that had turned around, moving it until I got it exactly how I wanted it. And once I did that, it was time to embellish it. So I had a piece of scrap wood. I'm not even sure where it came from, honestly, but it's just a little piece of scrap wood. And also a wooden cat ornament that I got from Dollar Tree. And I used my Waverly chalk paint in the color ink to give them each one coat. And I painted both front and back because you will be able to see them. And then I used my little gator sander to distress the edges, which is just sand around the edges. And then for the cat, I took some twine and I pushed it through the hole. And then I wrapped that around the broom handle towards the bottom. I'm sorry I was out of frame and you couldn't see it. But then I took and wrapped the other end, or not wrapped, I put the other end through the hole and then I tied it in a knot. You can see it there. I just thought that gave it a little bit of character. And then once I had that done, I took my scrap wood and I had made a little phrase on my Cricut that says "The witch is in." And I just put some transfer tape on that and then transferred it onto my little piece of scrap wood. Jeez. I wanted to show you that whole process, I guess. I had a little bit of trouble with it sticking. Stuck to the transfer tape a little too much. And then I decided where I wanted it on my broom handle. And I used my Titebond Quick and Thick glue. And I added that to the broom handle where I wanted it. And then I also added hot glue around that. You don't want to put the hot glue in the same spot you put the glue because it defeats the purpose. And then I just stuck my sign on, and that was it. My little witch broom was complete. I hope you like it. I absolutely am in love with it. Please let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to see yours if you make one as well. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!